least it seems a bit incomplete. I saw George Conway tweet about this.
Yes.
And then Todd Blanche responds to George Conway on Twitter, and he was like, "Well, I didn't have these emails then when I interviewed her." And then George was like, "Well, then maybe you should go back and interview her again and see if she tells the truth now."
We'll be waiting for that interview to happen.
What is this? What is happening right now?
The fact that this whole thing comes down to the way in which we're getting information about this scandal is a Twitter fight between the Deputy Attorney General and George Conway.
Everything is just so stupid.
Yeah, it's so dumb. On a quite a serious subject, frankly.
Very serious. Very serious. So, like, politics of this, like, I was ready. I'm like, okay, the Epstein thing has faded away. I get it. Whatever. Trump has not covered himself in glory on this one. But it seems like the MAGA base was ready to move on. All the MAGA influencers, the MAGA media types are all like, they're all covering up for him now. They don't care anymore. All the people that had showed like a little bit of independence from Trump when this first broke, they're all back on board and they're pretending nothing's there. Like, is this something that Democratic politicians should still be talking about? What do you think?
Well, we kind of have to. Like we knew before the 2025 elections, affordability is the number one issue. If anyone had any doubt, elections made it crystal clear. If we could only talk about one thing, we talk about affordability, but we don't get to pick the topics. We're not in the White House. We don't have the bully pulpit. Even if we did, we don't have sort of the messaging throw rate or the media machine to allow us to do this. So nobody's going to talk about the things that people are talking about, and this is one of those things. It has political advantages for Democrats in two ways. One is there is a way to take this. Like, you can't be incredibly awkward and be like, he's covering up the Epstein files to distract from the high prices or anything dumb like that.
And you don't need to be going like Trump's a pedo. Like, we just don't.
Yeah.
Just don't.
Say
more than we know.
Yes,
Stick with what we know. It's bad enough.
The most politically appealing way to talk about this is to lay out the facts in a straightforward, fact-based way as you can, and then make the point that Trump is covering this up to protect himself and his other rich friends. And this is part of the corrupt, broken political system he said he was going to fix. Those are not the words to use, but that's the gist of the story. I always think this is my...
You got to have that disclaimer now, because otherwise we'll just hear...
No stage directions.
Exactly like that.
Just a shout. These are stage directions. The second way that this matters is Trump, you may remember, launched an affordability campaign like 5 days ago. You know when you can't talk about affordability? When you're in the middle of a roiling national scandal over your relationship with America's notorious child sex trafficker. And so it does block his ability to deliver message on anything helpful to himself. And so, like this, if we had a scandal where we found out that Trump was working with Jeffrey Epstein to personally raise egg prices, that would be better politically. But this is what we got, and I think it can be useful.
This entire second term also was about like Donald Trump himself personally delivering a damaging narrative about him and his presidency to us on a silver platter, like every day. You know, like, you don't have to think too hard about how the Epstein scandal fits in with the rest of what he's doing. Is that, like, all of the corruption that people were just angry about in Washington, not just Democrats or independents, but Republicans, people in Trump's base, like, the money he's making, the crypto, the Qatari jets, the Gatsby parties, the ballroom, all this shit that
it's
he's
all
doing
the piece.
for himself. He's the pardons for all of his rich friends and all the fucking violent January 6 people, right? Like, if you're a friend of Trump's, if you're connected to Trump, you can do this. You're all set. You can break the law. You're gonna get rich. Trump's getting rich. The family's getting rich. Everyone else, fuck you.
Yeah, that's exactly
your costs are going up. You're gonna bear the brunt of the
So,
tariffs. You're gonna bear the brunt of the shutdown.
okay.
We don't give a shit. We're gonna kidnap you off the street, whether you're undocumented or not. Like, it's a whole. It's right there. It's right there. I don't. He's delivering it right to us. It's so easy.
Pod Save America is brought to you by Nutrafol. If you're dealing with hair issues like thinning or shedding, you might feel totally stuck on what to try next. There are so many products out there, it's hard to know which ones are actually going to do anything. That's why you should check out Nutrafol. It's physician formulated, clinically tested, and even recommended by dermatologists.
You're more of a shedding.
Liliana.
A lot of shedding. So far,
Big
doing okay
eye.
on setting this in, I think. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand trusted by over 1.5 million people. You can feel great about what you're putting into your body since Nutrafol hair growth supplements are backed by peer-reviewed studies and NSF content certified, the gold standard in third-party certification for supplements. While many supplements rely solely on ingredient studies, Nutrafol clinically tests final formulation to ensure their efficacy using a variety of hair measurement tools, like hair counts and pull tests to assess growth, quality, shedding, and texture. Adding Nutrafol into your daily routine is simple. Purchase online, no prescription required. Automated deliveries and free shipping keeps you on track. Plus, with a Nutrafol subscription, you can save up to 20%. You'll have access to free one-on-one naturopathic doctor consults to support you on your hair growth journey, and a Headspace meditation membership is included. I just keep thinking Joe Biden had Nutrafol back in the day. He wouldn't have to do the plugs. And he would have been a little more centered and grounded.
And then he would have had that free Headspace meditation.
Good for everybody. See thicker, stronger, and faster growing hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering a listener $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com. Enter the promo code CROOKED. Find out why Nutrafol is the best-selling hair growth supplement brand at Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com. Promo code CROOKED. That's Nutrafol.com. Promo code CROOKED.
As a parent, snack time can be a battle. Ew! But with Simply Doritos, I can give my kids the flavors they love with ingredients I feel good about. Ooh! Nowhere to...
Days. One problem that's still lingering is air travel. There were nearly 1,000 flight cancellations on Thursday, and the administration says it's going to keep cancellations at 6% of total flights for the foreseeable future. I imagine this is untangling all the delays that sort of built up in over the last couple weeks, and the fact that we have been suffering an air traffic controller shortage for some time now. So I'm sure that former Real World Road Rule star Sean Duffy has this under control. Also unresolved, the future of the Affordable Care Act subsidies that 20 million Americans rely on, and the bitter recriminations among Democrats over the deal that 8 senators struck with Republicans to end the shutdown. We'll get to the Obamacare subsidies in a second, but Dan, you didn't get to join our group therapy session on Tuesday's pod about the deal, though you have written about it. Where's your head at now that we've all had a few days to process this?
Like you guys and so many other Democrats, I was quite pissed at the way in which the shutdown came to an end, that it was these Democrats who did this at this point in time. Like, this was the point of maximum leverage for Democrats. It's very possible that the Republicans were just never going to give, and their advantage was they didn't give a shit about any person they hurt, and they would starve people, they would destroy air travel, they destroy the economy, do anything to gain leverage. And we did, like, that. Democrats do not have the stomach for that. We have Obama used to call it, we have the responsibility gene. But even knowing that, I think we had to let it play out for a couple weeks more, because there was a lot of polling that showed that people were now just at that moment which we folded, beginning to pay attention. And that's when the real political pressure would have come on the Republicans. And because Democrats, to their credit, had won the messaging war and people were blaming Trump and the Republicans, when all the pain started, particularly around air travel at Thanksgiving, they were going to blame the people they already blamed for the shutdown, Trump and the Republicans. And so we should have let that play out. And so I'm very frustrated by that. I thought the 8 senators who caved here sold everyone out, and I think they did an absolutely miserable job of explaining their position. Angus King saying we shouldn't standing up to Trump didn't work. People calling it a win. Angus King went from saying that we went from no chance to 50% chance to get the Obamacare subsidies to the next morning we're down like 20% chance. They basically caved for one vote that is really kind of bullshit. Having said that, it's happened. It's over. I don't think it's going to matter in the midterms. No one's going to remember this cave 11 months from now when people are going to vote. So, I think there are lessons we should learn about how to go about these fights in the future, about what it takes to actually win them, and whether we have the stomach to do it collectively. But it's time to put it behind us and time to focus on making the Republicans pay the price for being so committed to raising healthcare premiums. Because I do think in the end, if we play our cards correctly, Republicans will have won the battle but lost the war here.
Well, let's talk about ACA subsidies, because that fight's not done yet either. Senate Democrats are supposed to, as part of the deal, get a vote on legislation of their choosing in December around extending the ACA subsidies, though there's been some talk about a compromise with Republicans in order to get it passed through the Senate. some of the ideas that have been thrown out? Or do you want to means test the subsidies? So like I heard Jean Shaheen say, like if you make over $200,000, you shouldn't be eligible for the subsidies, because then that would get more Republicans on board in the Senate. It all seems a little silly to me because the big problem is the House, but that's what's going on in the Senate. In the House, Mike Johnson still won't commit to a vote. Democrats are trying to file another discharge petition, like they did with the Epstein files, to force a vote in the House on a 3-year extension of the Affordable Care Act subsidies. I was looking for, to hear from some of the more establishment Republicans or the retiring Republicans on whether they'd go for that. Don Bacon, who's retiring, he said he would not sign a discharge petition on this, so that's not a very good sign. Mike Lawler is like a frontline Republican who's very vulnerable. He said he'd be maybe for a 1-year extension, but nothing more. So we'll see on that. But can you think of any way that this could actually get done and signed by Donald Trump?
No, I really can't. I think it's highly, highly unlikely that Republicans will do this. It will split the Republican caucus. Mike Johnson does not want to split his caucus at this point. I think it's highly unlikely he brings it to a vote.
I will say that I completely agree with you, and that is why, in the last couple of days, the more I have thought about the shutdown, the first thing in my mind is the chances that they were ever, even with all the pressure, going to ever pass an extension of the Affordable Care Act subsidies. I started off when the shutdown started by thinking it was relatively high, because I know how popular it would be to extend the Affordable Care Act subsidies, even with their own base, right? Something like 50%, 51% of MAGA voters said that they are supportive of this. So I thought it was very high. And then I thought, then it was like, I guess I'm like Angus King. Then I thought it was like 50%, because then they lost the election over it. It's like, I don't know what other kind of pressure would have forced them to give on the subsidies, as opposed to just given on getting rid of the filibuster for opening up the government. That I could still see if they held on. I still cannot see a scenario where they're going to do anything on ACA, because they seem so fucking dug in now. And Donald Trump and a bunch of Republicans are all talking about not just not extending the subsidies, but hey, let's take this opportunity to just like dismantle the rest of the Affordable Care Act. They keep talking about, we don't want to give money to the insurance companies. We want to give money to the people,
who are then going to give it.
Where are you going to fucking buy the health insurance from? Who do you think you're going to buy it from? Fucking Santa Claus? Like, what are you talking about?
Just cat doctors who take cash.
Well, and they're talking about these like health savings accounts, which, by the way, it's basically like a tax-free account that you have to fund, or they'll give you, maybe the government will give you a few $1,000 bucks, and then you have to fund the rest, and it's tax-free. You can't even use it to pay for your premiums, the way a lot of them are currently written in legislation. So you can use it to pay for extra out-of-pocket costs, I guess. I don't know.
It's
fucking,
like physical therapy.
It's fucking worth nothing.
Yeah.
It gives the insurance companies so much more power to deny you coverage for pre-existing conditions. So not only now are they going after people who were relying on the Affordable Care Act subsidies, they want to go after people who would get denied pre-existing conditions. So these are all their ideas right now. And you mean to tell me that this is the group of people who would be like, all right, we'll extend the subsidies? Look, we're going to go through this again in January, and there's going to be another government funding deadline at the end of January. And I think Democrats should fight like hell. But at the end of the day, Republicans are on the losing end of an 80-20 issue, and they don't seem to fucking care.
Yeah, I mean, you're thinking about this, and I thought about this way too, that through the lens of people understanding their own political self-interest. Raising people's healthcare premiums at a time in which affordability is a number one issue is that is a real world personal commitment to losing the house. That's really what they want to do there. And it's not even like this is, sometimes there are issues that are popular but they largely benefit the other party. This benefits their voters more than anyone else, because it is primarily,
which is the only reason I thought they would have done it.
I mean, no one has less regard for their voters than Donald Trump and the Republicans. We could go through many reasons why this happened. Part of it's negative polarization. Before the shutdown was over, there were a lot of Republicans who really wanted to solve this problem, but once it became part of the shutdown, they could never give on it. There's the fact that they are immune from political pressure because they live inside an epistemic media bubble that doesn't allow them to know how bad things are going. It's just This is really a fundamental change in how the world worked between when we dealt with the shutdown in 2013 and now. Is in 2013, most Republican members of Congress got their news from the Wall Street Journal, Politico, New York Times. Even they watched CNN. They watched Fox, of course, but they knew Fox, they were in on the joke with Fox, and so they saw all the bad coverage. Now they live in a world where they're winning all the time, and so they don't even know when they're losing. So they just keep losing in this case.
And even if they see coverage that tells them they are losing, the only person that matters is Donald Trump and keeping Donald Trump happy. Because even if their voters are pissed at them, even if they're getting bad coverage, they know that if they cross Donald Trump, they'll get a primary challenge and he'll come down hard on them. And so then they'll lose their job anyway. So they are, I think some of them probably realize they don't have good options either way. But the scarier option for them is to piss off Donald Trump.
And this is a fundamental change between Trump 1.0 and Trump 2.0. In Trump 1.0, he would have wanted to sit down with, at the time, Pelosi and Schumer and get the big four together and cut a deal. And he wanted to be in on things that seemed popular.
Yeah.
Here it's just like it's a presidency based entirely on owning the lips. And the way to defeat Democrats here, not to help Republicans, but to make Democrats lose, was to force them to cave here and not to actually do what's in the guy should, especially if you're so fucking afraid of the Epstein files coming out, the guy should really, really want the Republicans to win the House. And I know he's doing things like trying to redistrict and gerrymander the world to get it done. But one way to help them win the House is to solve this massive political problem, and he just made it worse.
Speaking of political problems they don't really give a shit about, there was one provision that got snuck into the final funding bill in the Senate that would let senators sue the federal government for as much as $500,000 each if their data is accessed without notice. What is this all about? The provision benefits 8 Republican senators who were recently found to have had their phone records accessed during the investigation by Jack Smith into Donald Trump's 2020 election subversion. Mike Johnson, a bunch of Republicans in the House, including some pretty conservative Republicans in the House, said they had no idea the provision was in there. And now Johnson says he's planning a House vote to undo it, which is kind of wild. What the hell?
It's really one of the most bizarre things because it's incredibly, it's obviously unpopular. It seems insane. It's basically just a potential cash grab for 8 members of Thune's caucus, where they can just, it's already been established that this happened to them. They wrote the rules to ensure that the 8 members of Republican Senate caucus could sue and get up to $500,000. It's already done. They wrote the rules to ensure that they could win because they already knew the evidence in this case. And the members of the House are probably pissed because where's their $500,000? And I mean, it's nuts. It's truly nuts. There has been not everyone is very quiet about how, we know Thune asked for it, but who asked Thune to ask for it? What was the thinking here?
Even Ron Johnson was asked about it because he was one of the senators, and he was like, "Well, I didn't really want it, but some other people wanted it." And he wouldn't say who.
It'd be very interesting to see which, if any of them, actually sued.
It's so fucking crazy though when you think about it from a again just blatant corruption kind of standpoint. Is that if the FBI and the government, if they have a target of their investigation and they're looking into that, and the target of the investigation is making phone calls with a bunch of people, then they're not going to pull up your phone records. They didn't pull up their phone records and know what they were saying. They didn't know the contents of their phone calls. They knew numbers that they were calling Donald Trump and potentially Donald Trump's co-conspirators in this. So they knew the numbers that they were calling and the times that they called those numbers, right? This is like standard investigative procedure. And what these senators have decided is, for anyone else in America that this happens to, that's standard procedure within the confines of the law. That's how investigations are conducted. But for these 8 senators, they get special treatment. Such special treatment that they get $500,000 each, potentially, if they sue over this. But everyone else in America this happens to, including the members of the House, they don't get that special treatment. Just wild.
It's just wildly stupid corruption.
And I think that the only reason that Johnson and them are willing to try to strip it out obvious. The most obvious is because it doesn't include them, but also this wasn't a Donald Trump thing, so they're not worried about pissing off Donald Trump. It's just like a bunch of fucking unnamed jackass Republican colleagues in the Senate. Pod Save America is brought to you by Article. We love Article furniture here at Crooked. We got it all over the office. Got some couches, got some tables, chairs. We do have chairs here. That's
A lot of
important.
stuff.
It's important to have chairs in an office. I have some patio furniture at home. Love Article. It looks great. It arrives very quickly and it's quite affordable. Article makes it effortless to create a stylish, long-lasting home at an unbeatable price with a curated range of mid-century, modern, coastal, and Scandi-inspired pieces. Article products are designed to shine on their own or pair seamlessly with nearly any other Article product. This thoughtful design approach makes it incredibly easy to mix and match, helping you create a space that feels cohesive and stylish. Every item is chosen for its craftsmanship, design, and lasting value. Article carefully curates its collection, selecting only high-quality, meaningful, and enduring pieces. Article offers fast, affordable shipping across the U.S. and Canada with options for professional.
Sophia's name. Sophia's JS MIA Amanda. Lillian, Lillian. Zelen, Z. Is that right? Nola Nay. TCRUZ. SIE